Hello and welcome back to Power Apps Basics. This module is about Dataverse. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Dataverse is, take on a little walkthrough through what Dataverse looks like in the platform, and then we're going to hook that Dataverse, up into the app. So Dataverse really is at the heart of Power Platform. You don't need to use Dataverse for data at all. You don't need to do that. You do need to use it if you're going to build a model-driven app. A model-driven app requires a Dataverse data model for you to be able to create that app. Some of the things with Dataverse is you can synchronize the Dataverse using data flows into other data sources. So you can have data, we've got a client who's using Amazon Redshift and pulling data into the Dataverse using data flows. You can pull SQL Server data into Dataverse. Any sort of data connector you can pull using data flows into a Dataverse structure. Once it's in Dataverse, you can then manipulate it and be able to build model-driven apps on top of the Dataverse, or hook data from the Dataverse into Canvas apps. Indeed, that's what we're doing in the next lab, is creating the Dataverse entities and then hooking them into a Canvas app. Of course, Dataverse is available to Power Automate. If for example, when a new record is created inside the Dataverse, then Power Automate can go and do something. You can report on data in the Dataverse, and Power Virtual Agents can also talk to Dataverse entities. Actually, that's not true. I'm recording this in January 2022, February 22. That is coming very shortly. Virtual Agents talking to Dataverse is coming very, very shortly. But it's at the heart. Dataverse is at the heart of these four products. It's at the core of the Power Platform. So let's look a bit more at Dataverse. It allows you to store and manage data that's used in apps. Dataverse is actually how Power Apps, Office, and Dynamics suite of products integrate with a single system of records. So in your default environment or in your Dynamics environment, you will have data that's stored in Dataverse. That is how these apps work. But you can create your own Dataverse in your own environments that are dedicated to the apps that you build. So it's standard custom tables, rich metadata, build apps and automate workflows against that data, and add business rules, not only at a column level, but also at a business process flow level of business processes to validate and guide the user through the process, and define role-based security. So only people can see, for example, they can only see their records that they created, or maybe they can only see specific tables or columns. You can really get granular on the role-based security within these within the Dataverse, and therefore within the apps that are powered by Dataverse. There's a whole bunch of standard tables, and I'll show you those in a second. I think it's called the Common Data Model. So the Common Data Model has these standard tables that you can leverage in your app. So for example, there is a standard task table, a standard account table that you can leverage. Loads of different tables. You can then extend these standard entities by adding custom columns to those existing entities or custom relationships. You can create custom tables to support your specific business scenario. You can create calculated fields, rolled up fields. You can define business rules and validation to ensure data quality. On the calculated roll-up fields, you can support basic calculations for now, but coming very soon is the ability to use PowerFX functions in these fields, which is sensational. You can import and synchronize using Power Query and data flows. It's got that sophisticated security model, and you can actually get at Dataverse data using APIs as well. So it really is at the foundation of the environment of an environment that supports business applications. So Dataverse is leveraged by Power Automate, then leveraged by these other designers, all in the Power Apps universe. And then on top of that, you've got Dynamics, Customize Office 365, and other things can live on top of. But at the heart of it, Dataverse lives at the foundation of each of these to build on top of. So let's imagine a pretend scenario. So here's an example of business data. Real world data with relationships with tables and columns. This is beyond the common data model, so you can create your own custom tables. This is, think of a regional building department here. They need to track and issue permits for various construction projects. So here you would have a permit table that links to inspection tables, that links to notes about those permits, that links to the plans and building owners. So you can create this table in relationships with other tables and then create role-based security down to the column level on these objects and entities. And logic and validation, you can create these rules at the data level, and then any app that consumes that data will respect that logic and validation. So the common data model is that the standard schema that is available just by default in any Dataverse environment. It is open source. Microsoft leverages it for its solutions, and then also customers and solution providers can build on top of that common data model to enrich their apps as well. So that's an intro to the Dataverse. Let's have a look at what Dataverse looks like. So first of all, let's just go into Power Apps. I'm going to go back to Apps. So this, beyond this screen here, the way you get to Dataverse is you click on Tables, that's here. If you do not see this, if for whatever reason you don't see this, you might see a big button that's here, and that button will say something like Create a Database. So if you don't see this, you probably missed a step in the setup around adding a database to your environment. If you're in a work environment, then you'll need to make sure you've got the right access to do that. But if you're in your tenant, as we recommend creating your own tenant, then you will see, you should see this. You should have set up during the setup, but if you don't see it, there'll be a button here. Just hit Create Database. It takes about 3 minutes, and then the database is ready for you. What you are seeing here is the standard pre-built schema, except this one. This is one. This is what you're going to create in the lab right now. But all these other ones are standard, and you can see actually this here is a custom table that's created as part of the lab. In this environment that you're seeing here, the lab has been completed, so that's why you can see it here. So you've got a drop down up here, so you can see all the tables, including standard tables, managed. These are inbuilt tables. You've got custom tables. Here's the custom tables, and then here's the default tables. It just shows a selection of those tables. So these are all the common data model that you can leverage in your applications. The pre-made schema. The recommendation is to use these where possible in your solution. So if you need to create a account table or a client table or something like that, then leverage this table that's got all the columns that you need for that particular entity. You can add different columns to it, you can extend it, you can rename it, but highly recommend that you use that because it's got a lot of the stuff in here that you need, and it makes it extensible to other apps as well. So that's the standard schema. Oh yeah, but let's go into a standard table. In fact, we'll go into the device order set that you're going to build out. This is what you're going to build in the lab. So you're going to build this out yourself. And just like there is in the table view, in the column view, you've got this same drop down up here. Let's have a look at just the custom. So these are the columns that you'll be creating as part of your lab. And then you have, you can see all the managed columns. These columns come with every single table that you create. These are by default, they're out of the box, and you can leverage these as well. These are all the columns. So these are the columns in the table. You've then got relationships with other tables. You then have business rules. You'll be creating a business rule around calculating the ship date. You then have views and forms, and these things here will be explored in when you do the model-driven app, dashboards and charts and all this other stuff that you can. You build into the data model. That's the important thing, is you build this into the data model at the entity layer, at the table level, and then you can leverage those across apps and solutions. Let's have a look at the lab, what you're going to do. So in this lab that you're going to do, which is lab number 2, let's look at the PDF for lab number 2. So it's got 2 main areas to lab number 2. The first is you're going to be creating the Dataverse entities and those Dataverse, creating the custom tables and columns. This bit here is all around Dataverse. Once you've created those tables and choices and standard and things like that, you're then going to be connecting that data up to the Canvas app. And what that will give you, what that feature will be, the thing that you're building into the app, is the ability to compare. Oops. Not sure what's going on there. Let me try that again. Not sure what is going on here. I just imported the solution, so something is going a bit strange here. Right, let's try that again. It's asking for connect, so I'm going to allow that. Okay, so you might get the same thing there when you do your lab. Just do what I did and click through to solve that. You can rewind the video, see what happened there. I think what happened there, although I should have a trial already activated for Office, I'm not sure. Things happen that way sometimes. So anyway, the feature you're going to be building in is the ability to select a few of these, click on compare, and then this is going to appear. You'll notice here that this is pre-approved with this email address. And then you type some comments in, and then you'll click on submit device request. So you're going to choose the device you want and submit device request. And then what will happen in the background, you'll then get this this screen here. So I'm going to build that out in the lab. This acknowledgement screen, it's an optional in the lab, but the rest of it is all part of the main lab. So so what you're building here is the compare, and then this device request is going to be submitted into the Dataverse table. So the Dataverse table is what's holding the device order, and that's what you're building in here. So I'm going to, like we did before, if you want to continue and crack on now, feel free to do that. Pause this video. I'm now going to just go into a few spoilers, if you will, just about common things that kind of go wrong, or some extra tips that will be useful after you've done the lab. But feel free to crack on with the lab now. All good. Okay, so welcome back. Let's have a look at some of the things that commonly go wrong or questions come out about. So first of all, let's look at Dataverse again. One of the things you may have noticed as you're building things out is that once you create a new column, so let's look at the device order column. Let's look at, I don't know, what's a column that we added? So department contribution. You'll notice that you can't change the data type. Once you have created a column, you cannot change the data type. That's a very important concept. If you get it wrong during this design phase, you will need to create a new column, you need to delete the column and add it again with the new data type. If your data is already in production, you'll need to add the new column, somehow transfer that data from the old column to the new column, work out any relationships that need changing based on that column, and then delete the column. Repoint all your apps to the new column. It's a nightmare. So make sure you get the data type correct at the start, because you can't change it. There is an exception to that, and that's the device name. Device name, or actually it's whichever column is chosen as the primary name column. Now, primary name column, it's a primary key. So if you're used to database terminology, primary key must be unique, or it must be unique. It's how the row is identified across the application. So primary name can be text, but it must be unique, or you can have it as an auto number, and you can change that during the lifetime of the app. I wouldn't recommend doing that without very, very careful consideration, but just know that that's the only example that you can change. Approval status. Notice this is a choice. Now you had the choice of choice or choices. A choice allows you to have one option. Choices allows you to have more than one option selected, multiple choice. So must be choice and not choices. You may have chosen choices. Go back and delete and add choice and then fix it up. When you create the contribution, which is a currency column, you'll notice actually you get two columns here. So which one do you use in your apps? Always use department contribution unless there's a specific use case here. There's a specific use case where you might not. What this is doing in the currency column is the department contribution will be stored in the locale of the submitting person, the person that's submitting the app. The base will always be in the currency of the app itself. So if you want to do any sort of conversion rules, data conversion rules, you put them in the base column will always have that, the base currency, the value in base currency. This has it in the local currency. That's why you get these two columns. Let's look at business rules. So business rules here, this is the ship date business rule. If we open that up, a few things around business rules. So what does this business rule actually do? So this business rule says, when it decides to load, let's wait a few more seconds, a bit slow. Okay, so in the business, in the calculating ship date business rule, so what this is doing, this is saying, so when you'll have built this out if you've done the lab, if you're about to build, this is what you're going to build out. It will, this is saying that when this field on the device order table, when the approved date contains any bit of data, that's what's going to start this this business rule. And what it does, what that then says is, in this business rule, it says once there's a date in here, then populate this field according to this formula here, which is basically saying take the approved date and then increment it by 14 days, add 14 days to that date. So how does this get populated? And it's a common question. Well, okay, well, how does this get populated? Well, when we go forward to the next, as we're building out the model-driven app, what we're going to do is create, when the approver will approve it, and that's when the approved date will get populated. So as soon as the approved date gets populated, then this will fire because it's been approved, and we'll get an estimated ship date in that column. So sometimes there's a couple of queries around why we've set this up, but it's because at a later time we're going to be populating this approved date. The other thing to note in this, you know, this is all grayed out, so I can't do anything with this. This is the second of three things. You'll notice that this is grayed out. If I want to edit it, I have to deactivate. I have to deactivate, and then I can edit it, and then I'll activate it again, and it locks it, so I can't do anything. The third thing is this designer is being rewritten, and it will be different within a few months. So if you're watching this and we've not updated the labs by this time, this screen may be drastically different to what you're seeing on screen. But we should let us know, and we'll re-record this particular module. Cool. So that's that. So that's everything about Dataverse. So that's the they're the things of note of Dataverse. Now let's go to the app itself, and let's look at some of the things around connecting the app to the app to the Dataverse data. I'm going to go into the apps screen here. You probably figured this out by now if you're doing the lab, but if you click on this, it's going to play it. So you've always got to remember to go onto the ellipsis, the three dots, and then click edit, and then you'll get into the designer. And a common thing that you might, an issue that you might be encountering is that you can't make a new compare. So you'll have done some compares, you'll have tested, but it will always be showing one that you've already compared. So you're not seeing a new one. Often the step that's been missed from the lab documents is on compare screen in the on visible property. It needs to be new form 1. It needs to be that to create that new form. On the main screen, Alt, you can use Alt to select. Sorry, Alt selects. So you can use Alt to then click compare. You can press F5 to view the app in preview. So holding, there you go, test your app right on the canvas by holding the Alt key to activate buttons and other controls, as well as double clicking in to type into controls. So Alt key is your friend to help you do that kind of stuff. And I keep pressing Control instead of Alt. There we go. So Alt allows you to use the app. F5 is a shortcut key to bring you into the app, the full-on app experience itself, and F5 again to go back out of it. So F5 to preview the whole app, Alt to preview the app inside the canvas, canvas app canvas. A note about pre-populating forms. So on this compare screen, we pre-populate this value with the logged in user. So where you and you do this in the lab, you will set it up so that you're logged in. You're seeing the logged in user. So when we look at the approver's default value here, we've got user.email. So we're pre-populating the person that's logged in with that. And obviously in real life we wouldn't do that. That would be defaulting to maybe the manager's approver. Sorry, the person logged in, their manager. So you might use the Office users connector to go and find the manager of that person and put that in the approver. So just for the lab, this is going to be the person's logged in. That's going to be used later on. But some of the things I want to talk about this. So in the lab, you need to remember to unlock controls. If you got stuck with that in the advanced tab, you've got to unlock. You need to remember to do that. With the approver here, what you might want to do is make it, and this is quite a common thing, that you might want to pre-populate some data as a help to the user, but you don't want them to edit it. So maybe that the approver, you want to pre-populate it, but it should never be edited. And what you can do is there's different ways of making that happen. So what we're going to do is just have a look here. There's in here there is a display mode. If we go into display mode here, so this card, I'll actually do it at the top level, at the parent level. 1 second, go here, the approver. Display mode, so we can change this. Now if we go, visible. One second, just a bit of a tech issue, 1 sec. So, sorry about that. So what we can do here is, let's escape out of that. So this piece of data here, we want to say that we want to capture the approver, and it's going to be the logged in user's email address for this case. And actually, we can just collect that silently. We don't want the users to actually see it. Then we can go to this visible toggle and just turn it off so they don't see it. Now that data's still there. It's still going to be dropped into the it's still going to be dropped into the Dataverse table, but the user's just not going to see it. And that's a really good way of doing things sometimes if you just want to gather data silently in the background, like gather that without the user seeing it, without them having to worry about looking at that. But maybe we want to do it a different way. Maybe we want that field to be there, but we just don't want them to be able to edit it when they're looking at the app, when they're doing the app. So what we can do there is we can go to the approver control, and there is a display mode property. So if we go to display mode, and there's three options that we can have, three options here. There is edit, which is the default, which is where we're at now. It's the parent default, so it's edit. Or we can have view. Now notice that changes the card layout a little bit. So these two up here are view. This one now is changed to view. The user can still see that, but maybe they assumed that they should be able to change this. So that might be confusing to the user, where they're sort of going, well, actually, I want to, this just seems wrong, right? What another way of doing it might be that you choose to show it as disabled. So it will show the field, but it's almost like intentionally. It's sort of saying this was editable, or this could be editable, but it's not. For some reason, it's disabled, so we've disabled it. So there's a few options there for you to be able to work with the different controls and how you want your users to interact with it. So we're going to keep that as edit as default. And then the other thing to do with controls is, and I think you do this in the lab with one of the other controls, maybe on the compare screen. In this app, I would very likely want to have this button controlled by the completion of this. So if comments is required in our Dataverse table, then what I want to do is make sure on the form that they can't submit the device request unless that is completed. Otherwise, if it is a default field, if it is a required field in Dataverse, you might get an error coming back. So you need to make sure that you're controlling that here. So required field. So why not make it inactive? This actually inactive, so they can't submit it. And that's the visible. So in visible, actually, there's two ways of doing it. You could have visible. That could be an if statement. You did that in one of the other buttons, so you could just use the same logic there. So visible is one option. The other option, of course, is that display mode. You could use display mode again to show to make it disabled, and then make it enabled when the data is complete, when the fields are filled in. That's it for the Dataverse. So in this module, we have provisioned the database if you didn't have one already, got familiar with the tables in Dataverse, and we've also worked with the Canvas app to play with some of the data there, to put the data into our Canvas app, to put some more features into our Canvas app. Thank you for watching this module, and I'll see you in the next module where we're going to talk about model-driven apps.